Greetings, everybody. I was looking for an idea for a video, and Jeff, aka Calico Silver, actually came to the rescue. He gave me an idea. He did a video of his own where he asked us 15 questions for Beatles fans, and I thought I would take part in this. It's a lot of fun. I know my friend Matthew Street has already made a video. I haven't watched his response yet, though. And let's go for it, okay? Now, Jeff was saying, gee, I hope these questions aren't too lame. Well, they're lame, but I'm going to do them anyway. No, not some. They're pretty basic. I don't know really what lame means in this context, but they're pretty basic questions. But look, some of them are fun, so let's go, okay? By the way, before I do, check out Jeff's channel, Calico Silver, because especially if you like Bob Dylan, he talks about a lot of different music, but I like Dylan, and I find his Dylan videos really interesting and a lot of fun. Okay, so first question he asked was simply red or blue, the red or the blue album. And I started thinking, well, I knew what my answer was, but then I think the way he answered it, it was a little different. He went on to say his favorite was the red album because he prefers the early Beatles. And then I thought about it. Well, if you want to ask me what do I prefer, early or late Beatles, it's a whole other thing. I prefer the early Beatles. Okay, so in that case, you would think it's the red album, right? But if we're talking about the albums themselves, which compilation do I prefer? The 62 to 66 or 67 to 70? I prefer the blue compilation only because I just think they did a much better job with this one. I really think this one is a much more all conclusive as far as really having a lot of the best stuff. So anyway, I like the early period the best, but I prefer this compilation out of the two. I think was a little better. Then the next question, number 2, was UK albums or the US albums? Well, of course, you know my story with that. I completely appreciate the UK albums, but I grew up with the US albums. And the US albums are my personal favorites. I just have a warm nostalgia feeling for the albums the way I grew up with the songs first. So I prefer the US albums, but I love the UK albums too. Now, next question, number 3. Please Please Me album or With the Beatles? Which one do you prefer? No contest for me. I much prefer With the Beatles. One of my very favorite of UK albums. All right. Next question. Let It Be or Abbey Road? That's another one that's pretty easy for me. I prefer Abbey Road. All right. And that was question number 4. Now, question number 5. What's your favorite White Album record or disc? That's a toughie because my favorite side, my 2 favorite sides are side 1 and 3. But 1 and 3 are on 2 different discs. So if you're asking me what my favorite disc is, it's tough to choose. But I'm going to go with disc 1 if I have to pick the whole disc, because I think some of the stuff on side 4 kind of cancels out. As much as I love 3, some of the things on 4, Revolution 9, Honey Pie, and stuff like that, kind of get in the way of some of the better tracks. And Revolution, 1 also, which I'm not that crazy about. All right. Next one, number 6. What's the most underrated Beatles album? I gotta say, I'm gonna go back to With the Beatles, and I'll tell you why I say that. A lot of people would pick Beatles for Sale, because a lot of times when we talk about what's the least Beatles album, a lot of people pick Beatles for Sale. And look, every album by the Beatles is great. I mean, any band would kill to have Beatles for Sale as their best album. The reason I'm not putting Beatles for Sale less is because I understand why people feel that way a little bit about Beatles for Sale. I mean, I love the album, but I could see that being a lesser favorite of the early albums. But this one, I don't get it. A lot of people pick this With the Beatles, their second album, as like the worst album. Worst doesn't apply when we're talking to about the Beatles, and I'm talking to people about the Beatles. But the thing about this album is I love it because it's early Beatlemania. The Beatles are really starting to come into their own. They're really hitting Beatlemania, in England, and they're about to come over to the United States and do it there too. They're really young, hungry, raw, full of energy. I love the songs on here. Now, a lot of times people put it down because there are a lot of cover songs on here. I have no problem with Beatles cover songs. They do them oftentimes much better than the originals. I stand by that, or just as good. Okay, so yeah, With the Beatles is my most underrated album. I don't know why people get on it so much. Okay, favorite UK album opening song. Out of the UK albums, what's the favorite opening song? I'm going to go with I Saw Her Standing There from their first album, Please Please Me. The 1, 2, 3, 5 is the best opener. But they have a lot of great openers. It Won't Be Long is a great opener. A Hard Day's Night, of course, with the guitar chord. Classic opening. The way the song Help starts, just with help, screaming help. I mean, they have a lot of good album openers, but I'm going to go with I Saw Her Standing There. What's my favorite cover song that the Beatles do or ever did? I know what a lot of people think I might say, but I'm going to go, and again, I'm going to show the album again if I have it handy. What did I do with the album? Oh, there it is. I'm going to go with the song Money, That's What I Want. I think Money is their best cover. But what's right there with Twist and Shout. Twist and Shout and Money are right there. But the Beatles always did pretty good covers. I made a video once, I think, talking about my least to most favorite cover. All right, songs. Now, a favorite song that nobody talks about. Oh, that's a lot of songs are like lesser known Beatles songs, underrated Beatles songs that perhaps nobody talks about. There are a lot of songs, a lot of ways I could go with this one. I'm going to say, When I Get Home. I always say that. I think When I Get Home off Hard Day's Night is one of the most very underrated songs of all. And I also think that it's a really good song that nobody talks about. I think John sings it with passion and conviction and energy. And again, that raw John voice. And I love the drums in there. I love the guitar in there, strumming in there. I love a lot about that song. So When I Get Home is my answer for a favorite song that nobody talks about. Next question. What's your favorite George Harrison Beatles song? Well, that's a tough one. A tough one, too. Many favorite George Harrison songs. I went with, for this video, I decided to go with Don't Bother Me. Again, off, anybody want to guess? With the Beatles. It's George's first song. I think it has a real moody, haunting kind of theme to it. I just love the sound of it. It's very interesting musically. I really like it. I've always liked it. And from when I was a little kid, I always liked that song, Don't Bother Me. It's funny, once I did a video where I talked about the least to best George Harrison songs, trying to rank them. And I picked Here Comes the Sun. Here Comes the Sun may be George Harrison's best song. I think his best songs on the Beatles are Here Comes the Sun, Something, and While My Guitar Gently Weeps. Those are, I think, George's 3 best Beatles songs. However, if you're asking me my favorite George Harrison Beatles song, right now I'll go with Don't Bother Me. 1963. Okay, you can only have one Beatles album, say. All of the Beatles albums have to go. You can only have one. Well, it'll have to be my favorite Beatles album of all time, the U.S. album, the Beatles' second album. And it has Money, That's What I Want on it, so, which, among other things. There's a lot of covers on here, but this is rocking Beatles. This is balls to the wall rock from beginning to end, and it's a very strong album. Even if it wasn't an album that the Beatles originated themselves or orchestrated in the UK. Okay, so that's it. Now, this is a 2-part question, number 12. I should have numbered these as I went along. I didn't number them all. Number 12. Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, the album, or, if you had to pick one, Rolling Stones, Their Satanic Majesty's Request. Which one? It's going to require a little thought from me. Hold on a minute. 2,000 light years from home. I think I'll go with Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band by a country mile. All right, now that's part one. Next question, next part of the same question, 12A and 12B. Sgt. Pepper or the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds? Now you're really talking about it. I'm leaving that on because I hate Pet Sounds. If any of you heard the toilet flush from upstairs, it's perfect. I do not like Pet Sounds. I find it the most overrated, great album of all time. And without even batting an eyelash, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Of course. Of course. Pet Sounds would have made a great EP if you had Wouldn't It Be Nice, God Only Knows, Sloop John B, and if you could somehow get good vibrations over there for a 4-tracker, that's good. Okay, number 13. What Beatle book would you recommend to someone who's never read a Beatle book? Jeff says he's never read a Beatle book, but that depends. What kind of book do you want? Do you want a reference book? Information about their records and their collectibles and things like that? Or do you want a book like a biography? I'm going to go with this. Mark Lewison, Tune In. This is volume 1. All these years, the Beatles, volume 1. This is an abridged version, the so-called paperback version. It's not the hardcover. This is a good reading copy. And very good, exhaustive biography by the man, Mark Lewison. Okay. Now, which 1970 album would I choose? You have John Lennon, Plastic Ono Band. You have Paul McCartney's self-titled album, McCartney. You have George Harrison, All Things Must Pass. And Ringo has 2 albums, Sentimental Journey and Buku's of Blues. Which one of those 2 albums would I choose? I gotta say, I enjoy Plastic Ono Band. I enjoy McCartney. Not too wild about Buku's of Blues. I know a lot of people like it. And Sentimental Journey is okay for a standards album. But no, I think I got to give it to George. I got to say I choose All Things Must Pass out of that selection of albums, okay? And, okay, that was number 14. Number 15, the last question is about Badfinger, the Apple band Badfinger. What's my favorite Badfinger album? Now, I'm familiar with at least 2 of their albums. But the one that I chose was Straight Up. And I chose Straight Up mainly because it's got Day After Day on it, which is my favorite Badfinger song, and George Harrison plays a killer guitar on that. Killer lead guitar. So, Straight Up for Badfinger. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Thank you for suggesting this video. Thank you, upstairs neighbor, for flushing the toilet right in time for Pet Sounds. Okay, everybody, let's have fun with this. Come on, just my opinion. Don't get mad. Just an opinion. Later.